You've already done your job. Okay, that part is fulfilled already. A nation stemming from you, and kings will issue from you. Okay, what does that mean? Okay. And this land, which I gave to Abraham and to Isaac before you, your father and your grandfather, I now give to you and to your descendants. So it's based on this religious experience that what enters into the mindset not only of Jacob, but all his sons and so on, is this land, which for the boys, this is their first time in this land, right? It is their first time into this land of Canaan. They feel, well, God promised this to our father, and our father's father, and our great-grandfather. This is the promised land. Okay, this is the promised land. And that is deeply sunk into their, you might say, their spirituality, their understanding, their cultural understanding, their community understanding of themselves as a family. And that's going to be carried out. The next thing, the next part of the story then is verse 16. They departed from Bethel, but while they still had some distance to go, on the way to Ephrath, Rachel began to be in labor, to suffer great distress. Of course, her maidservant, Deborah, had died. When her pangs were most severe, her midwife said to her, "Have no fear, this time too you have a son." And with her last breath, she was at the point of death. She called him Ben-Oni. And his father, however, named him Benjamin. Thus, Rachel died. She was buried on the road to Ephrath, that is Bethlehem. Jacob set up a memorial stone at her grave, and the same monument marks Rachel's grave to this day. Now, what's interesting about this? Some of you have been to Israel, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Who's been on pilgrimage to Israel? Okay. Do you folks remember between Jerusalem and Bethlehem stopping at Rachel's tomb? Huh? Stopping at Rachel's tomb? Dick, did you folks?
Yeah.
You did?
I did too. I was with you.
Huh?
Same time after.
Who?
Back. Right in front of me.
You?
Yeah,
You stopped at Rachel's tomb.
we must have, because he just said so.
But you don't remember it. We must have, because Dick said it, but you don't remember it. Maybe if you would have had this background, you would have remembered
That's why
it.
I'm here. We'll have to go.
Okay,
again.
you probably stopped at, it's probably an indication, of what tour agency you had, either Israeli or Palestinian. Huh?
I think our tour guy was a Palestinian. He was really steeped in scripture.
Okay, so he should have pointed this out to you. Now, what's interesting here, today yet, when you go, there is a spot between Jerusalem and Bethlehem, just north of Bethlehem, actually, a shrine that's called Rachel's tomb. Okay? And it says to this day it's still there. Yeah, it is. Even to this day. Okay? All right? Now, but what's interesting, we do not get, other than it's saying Jacob changed the name that the mother gave to the child before she died in childbirth. He changed the name. And we've seen before the mothers gave names to the children, right? Okay. So in the footnote here it says Ben-Oni, means son of my vicar, or more likely in this context, son of affliction, because she was dying in childbirth. Benjamin, or Benjamin, means son of the right hand. This may be interpreted to signify a son who is his father's help and support in his older age. But more likely its origin means southerner. In the Hebrew idiom, the south lies to one's right hand, and Benjamin, tribe of Benjamin, was the southernmost of Rachel's tribes. Was the southernmost of Rachel's tribes. Okay? So, the name has that meaning, but hold it. Wasn't Rachel the favorite?
Yes.
Wasn't Rachel the one that Jacob loved?
For 14 years.
Don't you think there'd be more emotion with her dying on the way home? Rich, what do you have?
Well, that's what I was about to ask, because when we fast forwarded to 49, Leah is buried in the cave with Jacob and Abraham and Isaac, but Rachel is buried on the side of the road.
Yeah, well, she dies. Yeah, she dies on the side of the road, and they put up a shrine there in a memorial place. But they knew enough. He is a slow moving thing. By the time he would have gotten her to Hebron, which isn't all that far today. I mean, you can jump in a car north of Bethlehem and get to Hebron probably in 35 minutes, not counting the checkpoints that you have to go through. Okay? But back then, that would have been 2 weeks' journey. All right? So she would have been kind of ripe by then, if you know what I mean. So you had to bury her off quickly. Huh? But yeah, a good point, Rich. Leah ends up being buried in the family cemetery, so to speak, the cave near Hebron, with the others, but not this favored wife. Tom, what do you have?
Well, Rachel had the last patriarch. 7 years later, she had the last patriarch, which was Benjamin. But first of all, in chapter 30, it says, then God remembered Rachel, and God listened to her and opened her womb. And she conceived and bore a son and said, God has taken away my reproach. And she called his name Joseph, saying, may the Lord add to me another son, which God did 7 years later.
Right. Okay, so that puts us in. Now, this son, I just want to point out, his name will be Benjamin. We'll find out later on in history. Well, let's look at Jacob's last will and testament. Rich kind of pointed us in that direction. Look at 49 again. What does he say about Benjamin? What does Jacob say about Benjamin? Verse 27 of chapter 49. Benjamin is a ravenous wolf. Mornings he devours the prey. In evenings he distributes the spoils. What? Yeah.
He was a hunter.
He was a hunter? Well, he seems to be, he doesn't say a whole lot. And this is the kid that in his old age Jacob leaned on, huh? The upshot of it is this, folks. Upshot of it is this. Tribe of Benjamin becomes, he's the last of the brothers. His mother dies in childbirth, right? When they settle in the promised land, the tribe of Benjamin will be the smallest in terms of population. When they cross over in the period of Joshua and the Judges, right about here, here's Jericho, so when they cross over, the land straight in, up into the hill country, will be the land of Benjamin. It's a very small little sliver between the territorial tribe of Judah and the tribes of Manasseh and Ephraim, the sons of Joseph. Other stories subsequently of those members of the tribe of Benjamin will indicate this. Yes, they were a fighting tribe. Yes, they are identified as being a tribe of left-handers. The first judge in the period of Judges, Ehud, who goes and kills and murders, assassinates the king of Jericho in the book of Judges, Ehud is left-handed from the tribe of Benjamin. Okay? Not only that, but Saul, the first king, will be from the tribe of Benjamin. So, what God said in terms of promise to Jacob, from you will come nations and kings. The first king of Israel will be from this tribe of Benjamin. Jeremiah, one of the three great prophets, is from a town called Anathoth, which is in the tribe of Benjamin, just north of Jerusalem, Anathoth, and not far from Bethel. And not only that, but we fast forward to the New Testament, and what famous New Testament person, a great apostle, is from the tribe of Benjamin?
Must be James.
No.
You said the great apostle.
Yeah. The apostle to the Gentiles. Paul, yes. In the book of Galatians, he identifies himself, and in Corinthians, also in Acts, that he is from the tribe of Benjamin. So this, the youngest of the brothers of Jacob, sons born to Jacob, the smallest of the tribes, the most fiercest, because, the youngest one, he has to fight for everything. But they must be smart because they're left-handed. But you wonder if they're in their right mind.
Right.
Okay, all right. All those kinds of things are a part of it. But all these famous people, all these famous people come from this tribe. Ehud, one of the first judges, first king, King Saul, Jeremiah, great prophet, and Paul in the New Testament, all come from this little tribe. Interesting?
Yes. Father, is that where David went to get his men together when he was first started?
Okay, Pat's question up here, is this where David went then to get his band of men?
Studies. Ruffians.
No, not really. No.
He had some-
David went to the Philistines for a while. And then he had such a charismatic personality, but some of the Philistine mercenaries came and formed part of his mercenary army. Okay. Now, let's just fast forward through this and get on with it. We get at the end of chapter 35, verse 27. Jacob went home to his father, Isaac at Mamre, that is Kiriath Arba, that is Hebron, where Abraham and Isaac had stayed. The lifetime of Isaac was 180 years. Then he breathed his last, and after a full life, he died as an old man and was taken to his kinsmen, and his sons Esau and Jacob buried him. Oh. Isn't that great to hear? That the two sons who, 20, 25 years later, the older one, Esau, wanted to kill him. And Jacob goes away. It's a good thing they made up by that riverbank, huh? Okay. But when it comes time for the funeral with their dad, Isaac, they know enough to come together at the funeral, burying him together. And they bury him, in that cemetery plot near Hebron, huh? So that is a wonderful thing to see. Isaac, then, Isaac's role in God's plan was to carry forward the divine promises. With the help of his wife, Rebekah. We've seen that, right? Rebekah was almost, in some of the stories we saw, even more significant than what Isaac did, fathering those kids. But he has lived to see his son return. Where he has lived to see his grandchildren and maybe great-grandchildren. He's lived to see that what he held as important, that he received from his father Abraham, is being carried on now by his son Jacob. The belief in one God. The God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, is now concretized. Memorial stones are set up, worship altars, shrines are set up to the God, El Shaddai, or the Most High God. So Isaac can rest in peace. Huh? So that's great to see. Now, Thomas, what do you have?
Well, it says in here that Benjamin helped build the wall. After return from Babylon, it says Benjamin helped repair the wall. Is that a different era?
That's
or am I out of bounds?
Well, that's an entirely different era, and Benjamin there is used for the identification of members of the tribe of Benjamin. So you
It just happens to be the same name.
Yeah, you fast forward. It's the clan. It's the clan. Okay, the family clan. All right, of that tribe. If we look back at these stories, and one of the things that I've tried to do, folks, is point out the role of the women. There's very little that's said, but the women have popped up in significant ways. Huh? But the overall, is, well, there's an old saying: God writes straight with crooked lines. God writes straight with crooked lines. Through the humanness of these human beings. It's not exactly, everything isn't just straight on. And doesn't happen. I mean, we've seen here, this business with Jacob, it's taken 20, 25 years for him to get away from his murderous brother with the help of his mother, right? And then, come back again, right? And all the experiences they have. And all the places that they leave behind. I don't know, we didn't emphasize that enough, but there's at least 3-4 places in his return along these riverbanks and so on that he's piled up memorial stones, or he's piled up a memorial marking, or made little altars to his God. And, along the way, he's made all kinds of holy things, and each one, it seems to have been an identification where he felt that his God, the God of Abraham and Isaac, and now was reaching out and giving just him a special message. And so he's taught his sons all these important things. And it seems like God, he touches these people, and then they live out their lives. And sometimes it seems like they're going way, way, way wayward, but then they end up coming back. Huh? And the plan for God, is carried forward. And sometimes, let's face it, sometimes it's workings of the women that help carry the plan and promises of God forward, even in deceptive ways. Right? There's one more story before we have Mr. Jacob kind of settled in, and it's not with Joseph. Joseph, he becomes a great, but he's not really. Joseph, the story, the brother was sold into slavery into Egypt and all that, and then ends up saving the family because he gets the whole family to come to Egypt. And old Jacob is still alive, and he comes to Egypt, and then they live in Egypt and get fed, during the time of the famine and all that. We're not going to look too closely at that, but there is embedded. You can read that on your own. All right, Jacob's story, Joseph's story. It's going to start with chapter 37, 39, 40, 41. It just goes on and on. This brother Benjamin is going to play a role. 42, 43, 44, 45. That's all Joseph's story and so on. But there is one story embedded in here that I want to look at to kind of finish off the Jacob saga, and something about that fourth son. We've seen that number one son, Reuben, was a naughty boy and lost the father's favor, right? Simeon and Levi, they were bullheaded boys and created havoc as they entered the land of Canaan. They lost favor with God. It's going to be out of where the tribe of Judah, the fourth oldest boy, that develops into a tribe. It's going to come out of that tribe, that tribal territory, that we're going to see. The second king of Israel comes from Bethlehem, right? David? That's from the tribe of Judah. Huh?
That's right.
But what leads up to that? There's a little story we're going to look at next week and wrap up then and a woman plays an important part in this story as well. So come back next week. Thank you very much, everyone.
Although there are about 4 people who Benjamin's side, I was listening and I didn't write it down.
Ehud, the judge. Saul, the first king. Jeremiah,